Those who accept him shall rejoice, and those who deny him shall tremble. The denier shall be given over to justice and shall be forgotten.
In the Old Testament, the New Testament, American Indian prophecies, and among Buddhist, Hindu, Mormon, and Muslim teachings. With all these signs pointing in one direction, let us examine the life of the spiritual teacher of the 20th.
Being completely merged with God, Sai Baba demonstrates the power of creating anything on the spot from the ether, that is, from apparently nothing and nowhere. Baba is frequently seen materializing vibhuti ash by a wave of his hand as a blessing and for healing sickness. The same power enables him to increase or decrease for directing attention to the mystery that is God. He regards them as his calling cards. Unlike the powers earned by normal and casual expressions of his will, by materializing vibhuti, sacred ash, a ring, photograph, pendant, prayer beads, he brings joy into the lives of his devotees. Under his feet. He will give everyone gifts that are light in weight. He will go amongst the devotees.
Happened to be beside Swami, and we passed a bush. He broke off a small twig and put it in the form of a cross like that, and said, "Well, what's that, Hislop?" So I said, "Well, a cross, Swami." So then he put the twigs in his hand and gave sort of 3 long breaths, opened his hand, and there was a cross with Christ crucified, the figure of Christ on the cross. And he said, this is as Christ really and truly was on the cross, not as artists and historians had pictured him. He had been without food for a number.
Given this bead by a young lad who came from the United States. He studied Hatha Yoga in India, and when he came back to the United States, he came to Hawaii, and we met him, and he brought me this bead. He said in India it's considered an auspicious bead, and of course I wanted everything auspicious I can get my hands on, so anyhow I took it and put it around my neck, and I had another little gold thing about the size of your watch around my neck also, and because of them both being there rubbing against each other, and it caused some well, kind of a large little broken piece to come off right in the corner of it. So that really upset me, because back in those days I used to get upset about everything. I could really get upset, and I was really good at it. And I really wanted this, I wanted a perfect auspicious bead. I didn't want any broken auspicious bead. So I took it off from around my neck, and I used to carry it around in my pocket, and I used to always hold it, and I used to hold it up, and I would look at it, and I would look at that cracked part and kind of grumble, but finally I started looking at it and noticing how through the cracked part also there's a natural little ridge in it that I kind of line it up like a gun sight, and I used to sit there and I would look at it a lot. Living in Hawaii, I went to California for maybe 3 or 4 days, and while I was in California, the bead disappeared. And I couldn't find it, and of course it upset me, and well, then I just realized, what the heck, I've lost it, I can't do anything about it. So I just forgot about it. We came finally to see Sai Baba. I was so overwhelmed by the sight of him, because he is certainly very, very impressive, as you know. So while we were there, he gave us an interview, and I asked Baba, would he please help me with this monkey mind that's always running around jumping on all kinds of things where it shouldn't be. And he says, yes, yes, that's my duty. And as you have seen him many times, he just goes like this. And he materialized this bead. And then he gave it to me, and I looked at it, and I mean, I just had a feeling. I wonder, you know, if he was going to give me any Rudraksha bead, he can give me any Rudraksha in the world. And I just had this feeling, and I picked it up and I looked at it like I so many times had looked at it before, and sure enough, there is the little broken piece, there is the little ridge that I used to line up like a gun sight. And I looked at that thing and I thought, my God, that is the same one that he gave me. The same one that this other lad had given me, this man that was teaching Hatha Yoga. I said, is that the bead that I lost? And he turned to everyone in the room, and he laughed, and he says, yes, that's the one he lost in California.
A few miles from Puttapati stands Sai Baba's hospital. It's the second biggest hospital in Asia. How it came to be built is a story I heard from a friend of the American tycoon who paid for most of this. Apparently, the American became a devotee. He went on to found the Hard Rock cafe chain and become rich. Then he sold the cafes, asked Sai Baba how he should use the money, and was told to get this hospital built. It was to be designed and constructed in just 12 months. Critchlow.
People talk about miracles in relationship to Sai Baba, but purely in worldly terms, that building of that hospital was totally miraculous. In terms of what it normally takes to do such a thing, a highly technical, very large, very complex building. Sai Baba said, come and see the site. We drove with him in his car. We looked at the site. Here was this flat piece of land with a few trees on it. And he said, in a year's time, we'll have the first operation on this thing. And I said, inside my head, I said, no way, that's possible. But as the evidence I saw about me in Puttapati, and the more I got to know about the amazing social accomplishments of Sai Baba, this founding of girls' colleges, the building of this education building, the sports pavilion, all these things were evidence that he somehow is able to move these things and get them done. So my doubts were human, but at the same time, part of me thought, well, if he says the first operation is going to be in a year's time, I'm sure he's right, because he hasn't been wrong yet. We worked out.
Free for everyone. Remarkable in a nation where there's very little free treatment in the cities and virtually none out in the country. In Sai Baba's words, among the gods and symbols of man's various religions.
I suddenly discovered he knew all about me, and yet I'd been in England, and he knew where I was born, every detail that was very personal. It's impossible to pick on one because he knew the lot. And he said, now, David, he said, for you, waved his hand in his circular movement like he does. Suddenly, in mid-air, was a diamond ring, a massive diamond on it. And he said, now this fits your fourth finger of your left hand. I mean, slotted, and that's it. I mean, it's a huge lump of diamond.
One thing about the ring, the diamond, the big ring.
Yes.
Have you actually had it checked by a jeweller that it is a diamond?
I have had it checked. It's something that you don't do because you trust, all right? The value of this is immaterial to me because I know where it came from. But of course, human mind says, is it real or not? So I've not had any monetary value put on it, but I have had it looked at to see whether it is a diamond or not. And it's also, when they examined it, they said it's got 64 facets on it, which when I've been bored sometimes waiting for airplanes, I've counted and just managed to to suss out they're right. But no, it has been checked.
Were they impressed?
Yes. Like, sir, where did you get this? And when I sort of said out of mid-air in the middle of India, I think they called for the men with the white coats, you know.
You don't really see diamonds like that very often outside the crown jewels, I think, do you?
No. Not only since then have I had that, he gave me this one for my wedding, which was a little bit later on. Now, if I just take this off a second, when this appeared the first time, it appeared as an ordinary wedding ring, you see, just with the round. Then he blew on it, like that, and it turned to a flat top. And then he held it just steadily like this, all right? And then went, one of those stones appeared, 2 stones appeared. He blew on it 9 times, 9 stones appeared, holding it just as I'm holding it. None of this, no movement, no nothing. Been with him. People have come in wheelchairs and walked out. People with cancer have been cleared. My own father, by a letter from me to him, was one moment had cancer on X-ray in England, and a week later it had gone. Coincidence, perhaps? Or have we got something that is actually rather beautiful? I know he says it's his visiting card. Now, my father was a good example on this because Eventually he came out, he's a retired scientist, and he thought I'd got involved with some cult that wanted my money, wanted me, sign up, etc., and was amazed to find none of that applied. And he had some very close experiences which were very moving for him. And when he got home in England, Swami had given him a ring too, similar to this one. And when he sits at home, he's got that ring to remember what really happened. If he hadn't got that ring, he said, David, I was thinking it was
Sometimes something more solid. Uniquely, the visitors were allowed to film here inside the interview room. I want all the same to see for myself. I'm so intent on getting him to call me for an interview.
This morning, Swami asked to see a ring that he had given me 2.5 years ago, a diamond ring, and I showed it to him yesterday, actually, in Darshan, and the stone had come out of it, and I had lost it completely, and I held it up to Swami, and he took it, and he looked at it, and he said, "Where's the stone?" Really, with a big smile on his face, and I said, "Swami, I don't know, I lost it when I came here for 70th birthday." And he looked and he said, "Did you give it to your girlfriend?" And then in the interview, he passed the ring around to a few of the devotees, and people were saying, "Nothing, Swami, it's just a hole, it's empty." And he looked and he passed it and gave it away and got it back and gave it to some more people, and he finally took it. And he said, "What is there?" And when he held it out, he held out this ring. Beautiful diamond in it, but exactly the same kind of stone. And like that, Swami had really made my life.
And he took it back and he sort of smiled and he held it up so everyone could see, and just like that, and gave it to you, and there was the stone sparkling like that in the ring.
When everybody said, there's no stone, there is nothing, Swami said, but nothingness contains everything, which I thought was a very beautiful thing to say. Yeah.
It was his birthday.
Yes.
What happened about that?
Well, that was very beautiful because Swami said to him, "Today is your birthday, your 18th birthday." And we all saw this most beautiful fruit, a golden plum growing in his hand. It was more pear-shaped.
When you say growing in his hand, can you describe exactly the
process? It just grew out of the palm of his hand. What else can I say? Except that it literally grew out of the palm of his hand, and then he captured it and gave it to the boy and said, "Eat it. It's your birthday."
As you were watching?
Yes. As we.
Swami gives you things for a purpose. I tell you what I should do is to tell you about 3 different types of miracles that I experienced in the early days. One is a transformation of something into something else, and that's in connection with this ring. The other is a transmutation of one type of matter into another. That's the most convincing miracle I had in those days, because I was still a skeptic, you see. And the other one is a teleport, something that comes from a long way away. It was something very appropriate. I'll tell you about those 3. Start off with the ring.
Can you show me that ring?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Swami. He said, I think he said it's a bud of a button rose. And he, holding it there, he said to me, "What would you like it to become?" So I thought, here we are, now we're going into a real transformation miracle. And I didn't know what to say. I could have said anything, but I just said, whatever Swami likes, whatever Swami likes. So he put this little green button rose into his hand, he closed his fist, and blew on it, opened it, and there lying in his palm was this diamond. So Iris gave a squeal of excitement. And he went, that's the origin of that. Now, the rosebud disappeared, and in his hand was this diamond.
And what year was that?
On the carpet, once. And then he did the second time. And I had my eyes fastened on it, you know. My sight was screwed right on that piece of granite to see that he wasn't doing anything that Houdini would have been pleased with. So, the second time it fell on the carpet, I was watching it, it was only about a couple of meters away. I could see a slight change in its colour. And but there was no change in its shape. It was the same jagged piece of rock in shape and appearance. Not the slightest change in shape, which was a good thing, because otherwise I might have thought that he'd somehow or another substituted one for another. You know what I mean? Sure. It remained just that piece of jagged rock in appearance. And he picked it up, and I could see it had gone a little bit lighter in colour. And he sent it back to me again and asked the same question. Can you eat that? I could see then it was no longer granite rock, it was sugar candy. And he broke a piece off to give each of us. That's what I call transmutation. He changed the matter completely, the atoms in that rock, to turn it into sugar candy out of the great line of hills. And I remember the song about the Big Rock Candy Mountains that was popular when I was young. So just for a joke, I said to him, turn the whole of that hill into sugar candy, Swami. And you see, he knew I was joking. But he wanted to show me something, teach me something there. Very important. He didn't say I can't do it, because he could have. If you can turn one piece of rock, you could turn the whole of the hill. You know, that's the nature of miracles as taught in the Course in Miracles. And so he said, no, he said, I don't want to interfere with the work of Mother Nature too much. And they said, what year were you born? And I said, 1906, Swami, 1906. And he said, there was a special coin minted in America that same year you were born. He said, it's a coin that's not in circulation now, and it's a special one. I found out afterwards why it was called, he called it special. He said, I'll get you one. I'll get you one. He didn't say I'll make you one. He said, I'll get you one. Lifting his hand in the usual way, palm down, and he said, it's coming, it's coming. It was a little bit longer than he takes to produce for booty, but not long. Well, you say 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And he closed his hand on it and told me to open mine, and he dropped into my palm a golden $10 American $10 piece, see? Mm-hmm. I'd never seen one before because they're not in circulation. He told me that I wouldn't give you this if it was in circulation, but it's not. Now, I was very thrilled with that, and through his grace, I had the opportunity later on in America. I was staying with a coin collector, an expert, who was the brother-in-law of the famous Elsie Cowan.